Toni Jones. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Tony, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Before we really get into anything too serious, I kind of want to know this first. And if you had the opportunity to maybe change or remove any social interaction that has become commonplace, is there something that you would say, nah, I'm good with that, and I think we could maybe do without?
Hmm. I think we could do without the handshake. We could probably do without the hug from, everyone. Um, Other than that, I'm good. I like a fist bump.
Physical interaction, I mean, it's definitely optional. I think there maybe should be a sign that could be worn. For me, Tony, I think it's not responding to people when they're not having interesting conversation. Like I don't feel the need. Like I could just not say something to you, and I think that would be okay. But that's kind of treated as rude. So,
It
um,
is. You're right.
but so much work in social settings, Tony. I want to move things over to the world of insurance. And is there something you've been in the game for quite a while, and you've had your fair share of experiences. Is there something that you feel maybe has become unnecessary, redundant, or possibly outdated in your day to day?
Goodness. I mean, what an open-ended question. I mean, insurance itself is there's all these new technologies available and a lot of people do not access them, including us. We don't use them as much as we should. We're starting to evolve and grow in that direction.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is that we often find ourselves with duplicate data entry and things like that, and you feel like you're having again similar conversations over and over again. From that aspect, I mean, what do you think? Maybe less redundant, but is there something that you feel maybe you're having a hard time moving past in the agency that you can't seem to overcome? Is there something that you find challenging every day that is maybe not up to your standards?
So we have people who are very well established and they are very much ingrained in doing things a certain way. They feel like they want to get those signatures. They want to be there in person to present, which is, I mean, it's great. A face-to-face interaction is definitely part of what makes insurance agents and the independent insurance agencies have value. So I appreciate that. But sometimes we are in a crunch time and we are like, let's get it done. And DocuSign is a great tool, and similar services are great tools that are not necessarily used to their full capacity at my insurance agency. Also, being able to pay without a paper check, that seems to really bother some people. They want to write the check and hand it over or type the check, however they do it internally. And the idea of putting ACH information into a database or to a portal to a website, it just, it's like I've spoken Chinese to them. I've completely, they're like, what? Wait, what?
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point, and I think even sort of lying underneath all of that, uncertainty for people sometimes is just there's maybe a sense of losing the relationship in some way, shape, or form
Yeah.
of that. That is somehow part of the value add of the services rendered, sort of thing. And again, it feels like it may have come natural, but for other people that may be in similar positions, right, where they're struggling to bring everybody along to there are other things that we can do. How do you sort of get over that hump of saying, listen, that's not really what they want us to do, and how do you sort of communicate the things that you think are more important?
Honestly, I think it's a case by case basis with various insureds. I have some insureds who are on board to do any and everything. They are early adopters. If we're trying to implement some new services, I know who to go to. They will be the ones that will try it, and they are okay if it doesn't work quite well, if it fails a little bit, or if there's some different things that need to be ironed out. And then I have other insureds who they want what's tried and true, and they do not want to be guinea pigs in any way, shape, or form. I have some insureds who only communicate by fax. Fax. It is 2023, and they
Hmm.
will only fax. They handwrite and they fax it in, and they expect us to fax back to them. I have other insureds who only want to talk on the phone. I have some that will only accept paperwork by snail mail. So there is an actual a mailing process that goes back and forth. So you have to start their paperwork process, I mean, well in advance. So honestly, it just depends on who you're working with. You just have some insureds who are game to go for anything, and you just have others who are they're not. They don't even have smartphones. Some of them still have flip phones. So you just never know what you're going to get.
So do you use any of that? And that's the other thing that I find interesting too. Do you use any of that in terms of we always look at, qualifying a prospect in terms of their overall insurability, but do you ever qualify them based on their ability to do business with you in the way that you prefer?
That would be a great idea. No, we do not. We don't disqualify anyone despite how technology unaware they may be. Although sometimes it is a hurdle that I find very difficult to overcome, but we still figure it out and we do it. So no, we do not, but I think that's a worthy idea. I
I
do.
mean, I'm just saying the fax machine may or may not have passed its prime, and it might be time to go.
Yeah, we don't even have, at one time, we had individual fax numbers for each of our employees, and it came to our inbox, our email inbox, of course. But now we've even eliminated that because it just wasn't used very often. So now we have maybe two or three ways to fax to Palomar, and they all still go to inboxes, but one person is kind of guarding the information and distributing it as needed. But yeah, I don't have many people that are like that, but I do have a few, and they mean business about it. Don't email them. They have email addresses, but they do not check them.
So, what do you think it is about? Like you said, you're trying to sort of move the agency in a direction where maybe some of these things aren't as big of a deal, and
Yeah.
what is it that's on sort of your horizon? Like, where are you looking to get to? Like, what is the next step for you in terms of, boy, if I could do this, or boy, if I could do that. Like, what is something that really has caught your attention?
We've been using Teams, Microsoft Teams. We started implementing that a few years back. I found that it has been very, very useful in being able to track what people are doing, be able to track tasks, even just information that we receive from multiple brokers and insurance carriers that we work with directly. Having a lot of just resources that are easily retrievable while on the go, while, because we're a remote office. Well, we're hybrid. We work 4 days at home, 1 day in the office. So everyone's everywhere. So Teams allows us to really consolidate all of our information and data. And it's really easy for me to, Tony, they love to come to me and ask me questions like, just check Teams. I got it. Just look in Teams and here it is. And it's quicker for me to be able to respond to people. It makes my job a lot simpler. And I think it's easier for them to be able to just get that information at the drop of a dime. It's right there. So that's one thing that we've really been pushing. Something that I want to get implemented within our agency, and I need to figure out the best way to do it. There are a lot of different resources available, but we really need a centralized prospecting database. I know there's Salesforce, there's a lot of different things available, but we do have those well-established producers who are not probably going to be very diligent about putting things in the system. So information is only as good as what you put in. What you get out of it is what you put in it. We've tried these things before and they have failed. But I just feel like there has to be some sort of solution. We're right now, I do transportation, I do trucking primarily. And we have probably 15 producers that are doing trucking within our agency. So there can be a lot of overlap. There can be a lot of prospecting of same or similar accounts, connected accounts. And that's something that I feel we are looking for a solution for that, and we haven't yet found the right one. But that's something I'm adamantly and eagerly attempting to locate.
There's definitely a lot there, Tony. Before we move off of the whole Teams thing, I feel like you have something that you could maybe add, like just a super Teams hack that, like, hey, like here's a good tip for organizing in a way that you probably aren't using.
So we have multiple different teams groups depending on what you're doing. Like I have a transportation group that consists of my marketers, my CSRs, my producers. We have commercial, personal lines. We have, the various groups. And within that group, I have chats established for different groups so we can quickly like go run things back and forth between one another when we can't get each other on the phone. Plus it's always there as a record of what's been said so people can go back and look at what has been questioned before. Then we use our files and we have it set up by applications, by carrier miscellaneous information, Palomar, need to know, just a lot of different files and groups and folders and renewal lists even. We put our renewals in there and we have them organized by who's going to be marketing what. And we identify all that stuff where you can just pull it up to see what's what and what's going on. The wiki is great for little tidbits that you need to be able to tell somebody. And there's not really a place that you would file it because there's not a file, but just like a need to know. Do you want to know how to calculate somebody's age in Excel really quickly because you're doing an Excel list? I just got the formula right there. You just click it in there. How to use our ePay, how to collect that from insured or prospects. Just all sorts of little tools are in the wiki. And then we also have our tasks, which we use with our assistants, and we upload tasks into it. It's called the Tasks and Planner. I think it's the Microsoft one. We just use the basic, but when you send that to them, they get an email saying that that's out there. And then they can go and assign it to themselves, because we have two transportation assistants specifically, and I assign it to both, so they both know it's out there. Whoever gets to it first, they assign it to themselves. They say it's in progress. They put little notes telling you what's going on, what the status is. I'm very much into Teams, and I hired a new marketer last month, and she came on board. She said, we use Teams. She said, but we did not use Teams the way that you use Teams. She said, I love this. She's like, everything's just right there, and it is, because I don't print a lot of paper. I use what technology has bestowed upon me. I don't have to print a lot of things to make things be effective and efficient, and people love it. It's very useful.
Well, I mean, even just the email reduction alone has probably
Yeah,
been a life changer, I would imagine.
yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely, I would say, more than most people are using Teams anywhere, would be my guess. Just to save from my unofficial poll here, I would say that you probably are in the top 1% of Teams usage there. Well, I want to get back to, I mean, what you said, a lot of interesting things about sort of, one, information in, it's hard to get good information out if you don't put good information in. I
right.
think we would be surprised, or maybe, shocked at how high up you could go in the insurance world and still find it built on, with duct tape and string and Excel files and just, I mean, everywhere. And
Hmm.
at what point do you think, this might be a little existential, but at what point do you think that we would benefit from a little more organization? Because like you said, somebody that does like to have things kind of buttoned up. How much do you think we're leaving on the table? Even just in your case with the transportation accounts that you're not currently properly tying together.
Oh, a ton. I mean, just from an organization perspective, having a good list of everything, knowing what your processes and procedures are, and being able to implement them. And that way you can help to cross train additional people on staff, better train new hires. I think it's just critical. And you're right, it's not something that we are necessarily the strongest at in our industry, but it's something that we should work toward.
Have you had maybe some success with a process, like, again, getting some adoption, some sort of headway with processes in the agency that you feel maybe proud of? Is there a secret, at least hurting the cats in some aspect?
Oh gosh, not so much. Strong leadership is really critical. If you don't have a leader or a leadership team, a management team that is really focused on that and driving that home to the employees, it's never going to succeed. We have very much written out procedures, manuals for the different segmentations, because every department kind of does things a little bit differently. But we have that written. It's written. It's all is documented, and it helps us on an E&O side too as well. I mean, you have to have some sort of process in place that is systematic in order to prevent E&Os from occurring. I mean, that's the whole point of it. So no, we have a strong team that really pushes it. We actually have our own trainer. Her job is to train new employees, new hires, people that have been there long term, even just on how to do their jobs better, how they might be skipping a process. After a while, you get kind of immune to 1, 2, 3, 4. You're just like, well, I know, then let's just jump to 4. I'm good with the rest of these things. And eventually it kind of catches up with you. So her job is to train, re-educate, hold lunch and learns, do all the things that are going to help us run smoother, and be a better functioning agency overall. And she does a great job at that.
Real quick, just maybe give me a scope on terms of the size of the agency overall, just in terms of how many people you got going there, different roles, and sort of all that fun
We
stuff.
have around 100 employees. We're a family owned agency, and small relative, some of the larger bank owned agencies. But when you think of a family owned agency, 100 employees is substantial. We have a lot of things going on. And the bigger you are, I feel like the more important it is for you to have some very detailed things, because everyone wants to do what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, 100 is definitely on that larger side in terms of family agencies. Most
Yeah.
people are dealing in the 20, 30 range. So you definitely
Hmm.
have quite a big operation there. And I just wanted to sort of, get a little context in that. Yeah. So you mentioned also too on the E&O side of things and sort of the strong processes and doing a
Yeah.
lot of transportation. I don't know if you've come across this as much as I have, but it does seem like it's always that transportation is that line of coverage that is very alluring. It's very sort of seductive,
It
that
is.
people want to maybe dive into, but it's not for the faint of heart and for sort of the weekend warrior, if you will. Would you have any tips for somebody that if they did want to get a little more serious about it, some of the best ways to start without, making, a mess of it?
I would highly advise that you find a mentor who does do trucking and knows what they are doing, and do not just jump out on that ledge on your own, because you will fall to your death. It is a precarious niche. Once you get it, you got it, but you got to get it first. And so I would suggest reaching out to someone, go through your state big I group, see who they can probably pair you with as a resource, or as a mentor. They can probably help to guide you and find someone that does what you're looking to do, that you won't interfere in their territory. Because that's also the thing too. People don't want to necessarily train their competition, but there are a lot of people that are willing to be resources for you if you just ask. So that would be my suggestion. I would definitely read. There are lots, not lots, but there are a couple of different designations you can get that can help you on the truck side. There's the trucking risk specialist designation through the Motor Carrier Insurance Education Foundation. There's the trip designation through IRMI. So there's different things you can do to just help you know the basic knowledge. But to get on the ground floor and to know how to talk to a trucking account, which is a different beast than talking to a contractor, there's different lingo. There are things you need to know that you're just not going to know until you find someone to help you with that, because they can sniff out someone who doesn't really know, someone that kind of knows, or someone that thinks that they can sniff you out really quickly. They just ask a few questions and you're flummoxed. You're like, I don't even know what you mean by that. So that would be my suggestion. Try to find someone who has an established book and that can be a resource for you, and get them to just maybe let you tag along just to see how things go, how things work. That has worked for us. When we get new producers on board to do trucking and they've never done it before, we oftentimes do pair them with a more experienced producer, and they can learn the ropes from them. And it has helped almost everyone. I mean, it's a worthwhile thing. A buddy system never fails. It works for small children, and it works in insurance, which is filled with small children, right?
Possibly, possibly. Toni, I've got three more questions for you.
All right.
And the first one is, what is one thing you hope you never forget?
I hope I never ever forget the smell of my children, like after a fresh bath, and the feel of their hugs when they come. Like, the hugs are the best, right? So when they come and like run up to you and hug you after a long day, like they haven't seen you in 10 to 20, but it's really just been 8 hours. Like, they just, that's what I hope I never forget in my old age.
Now, on the other side of that, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
Oh God, I mean, so many things. I feel like I'm a master of none, jack of all trades, master of none. I feel like I know a little about a lot of things and a lot about a little. I don't know everything. I want to be. I want to be the best insurance professional that I can be on the career side. I want to be the best mother that I can be. I really need to figure out a work-life balance. Like, that is something I struggle with daily. So that's probably needs to be at the top of my figure out list. That's something I fail at, I think, often.
Well, don't be too hard on yourself, Toni.
Yeah,
Maybe this
well,
last question will help you out. Last
okay.
question to you, Toni. If I
All
were
right.
to hand you a magic wand of sorts to change, speed up, alter really any part of insurance, what's that thing? Where is it going, and what's it doing?
Insurance specifically. I just want the magic wand to allow me to have all the hours in the day. Like, just to stop time and do what I need to do, and then like make time. That's what I need the wand to do. I want to control time and space.